Divine grace, Bhaktivinoda Samaraj, Prabhupada, Ananta Goli Vaishnava, Haridas Thakur, Namaskar, Divine grace, Prabhupada, Rain, Sikoj, Krishna Chaitanya, Punchananda, Siddheti Dharma, Svasti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Chaitanya, Radha, Krishna Govardhana, Shyam, Radha, Giri Govardhana, Giri Govardhana, Giri Govardhana, Swami Jai Radha, Jai Bhakti Devi Jai Dosamana Jai Govinda Sam Veda Bhakti Jai all glory some devotees, all glory some devotees, all glory some devotees, all glories Ishi Guru Brahma, all glories divine grace of Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. action is, knowing which you will be liberated from all misfortune. Purport. Action in Krishna consciousness has to be executed in accord with the examples of previous bona fide devotees. This is recommended in the 15th verse. Why such action should not be independent will be explained in the text to follow. To act in Krishna consciousness, one has to follow the leadership of authorized persons who are in alignment with cyclic succession, as explained in the beginning of this chapter. The system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated to the sun god. The sun god explained it to his son Manu. Manu explained it to his son Ikshvaku, and the system is current on this earth from that very remote time. Therefore, one has to follow in the footsteps of previous authorities in the line of disciplic succession. Otherwise, even the most intelligent men will be bewildered regarding the standard action of Krishna consciousness. For this reason, the Lord decided to instruct Arjuna in Krishna consciousness directly. Because of the direct instruction of the Lord to Arjuna, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna is certainly not bewildered. It is said that one cannot ascertain the ways of religion simply by imperfect experimental knowledge. Actually, the principles of religion can only be laid down by the Lord Himself. Dharmantu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Manu, the Kumaras, Kapila, Prahlada, Bhishma, Shukadeva Goswami, Yamaraj, Janaka, and Bali Maharaj. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of causeless mercy to His devotees, the Lord explains directly to Arjuna what action is and what inaction is. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. Kim karma kim akarmeti kalayopyatra mohita tatte karma pravakshani yadgyatva mokshashe shubha. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So now, a very interesting and at the same time difficult topic is being embarked upon in this Bhagavad Gita. It's an interesting topic because everybody's acting all the time. It's a difficult topic because, as Krishna Himself says right here, even very intelligent persons are bewildered sometimes regarding what is action and what is inaction. Even those who have a good brain may not be able to know perfectly what is action and what is inaction. And then Krishna says, I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you will be freed from the miseries of material existence. He says this many times in Bhagavad Gita, that knowledge is a key to being free from the miseries of the material existence. Unless one has knowledge, he can't get any freedom from miseries. For in an ignorant condition, he's never going to be happy. Ignorance is not bliss, although it may have been advertised that way in the past. It is not at all blissful to be ignorant. Ignorance, in fact, means that one cannot get out of suffering conditions because he doesn't have sufficient knowledge to do so. Ignorance basically means one doesn't know how to free himself from suffering conditions. Now, when we are engaged in normal activities, we don't know what factually are the results of these activities. Everything we do is more or less done simply because of some feeling. Just like somebody will say, I feel like it. This is basically the way children act. They do something because they feel like it. There is some desire welling up within the heart, some desire that comes from these senses. So then they think, yes, I shall do, because I feel like doing it. This is a form of whimsical action. This whimsical action is something which every one of us has grown accustomed. Whatever the desire of the mind or the senses, so we do. Of course, we are also forced by that same desire to do something regulated, like work or whatever, to fulfill our desires of senses. But basically, all actions are based on the desires of the senses for satisfaction. And when we are acting in this improper fashion, improper because such actions are not wise. Because these actions bring one back into the cycle of birth and death and cause one to accept another material body. Therefore, Maharaj Rishabdev, for one great transcendentalist, he said that don't act like this, because one will have to fall back into the cycle of birth and death, and he's going to have to suffer the threefold miseries of the material nature. The miseries which come from one's own body and mind, the miseries which come from material nature, from the weather or other elements or catastrophes, and the miseries which come from other living beings. So these suffering conditions are certainly causing us trouble. And we should avoid these conditions, because these conditions are painful, disturbing. But so long as one is acting whimsically, following the dictations of the senses or the mind, one will not be able to overcome the difficulties which are placed upon him by these three types of material miseries. So, the material world is an entangling place, so one should know what is action and how that action binds us with reaction. One should also know what is inaction and how inaction is good, because it keeps us free from the entanglement of the material karma and karmic laws. So therefore, one should know what is action and one should know what is inaction, so he can act properly and be factually, karmically inactive. If one is doing nothing, let us say, that does not mean he's inactive. He's still doing something in the material world. It's like we are sitting here, doesn't seem like we're doing much. Of course, this is not a good example, because we are actually listening to words which are akarmic by nature. They don't bring about any karma. But down there right now, there are some guys throwing each other all over the place. It's really a panic. I haven't seen anything like that since I was a little boy. When somebody picks up somebody and chucks him over there, and then he bounces off the ropes and then goes back, and bam, they pretend to hit each other, and it's a big show. There's a bunch of wrestlers over there. So, it's completely bogus. Somebody pretends to kick somebody and the whole thing is going on. Everybody's laughing because it's a good fun. Anyway, so now all the people sitting there, they think they're not really doing anything. We're just sitting here and watching something. This is not doing anything. But no, it is action in the material world. The senses are receiving stimulus. The brain is functioning. Now granted, it may not be a lot of karma to be engaged in watching a wrestling match, which is anybody a show. But still, one is engaged in the material world. And that engagement, that entanglement, has kept one wrapped up. And so when one leaves that show, he will again fall into immediately activities which are entangling him in more and more karma. It solidifies the material consciousness and desires to be engaged in material activities, brings more material activities. One sees a show which is good, then he thinks, yes, I should become more involved in material existence. I should be more engaged in material existence. One thinks like this. It's kind of like a chain reaction, or something like dominoes. You know domino theories? That there's all these dominoes. You know what dominoes are? Yeah, okay, these things are all lined up, so many dominoes. So when you push one over, then boom, 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 boom. They all fall over. So when one is engaged in material existence, so he is fixed in that. So by engaging in any aspect of material nature, then this starts to push over so many other activities in the material existence. Even if it seems to be a very innocent thing. There's nothing innocent in the material world. It's all guilty. There's nobody innocent. We're all guilty. Because we have all accepted this material nature as our residence. We've accepted this material body as our home, and we've accepted the material consciousness as our identity, and therefore we are fixed in the material world. And being so much fixed in the material world, we don't find a way out. And everything we do just leads us further down in the entangling pit of the material existence. That's what action is all about. Action in the material nature is just leading us back into a deeper pit of material illusion. And you can't do anything about that. So long as one is remaining in the material world, so long he'll have to again and again and again fall deeper and deeper into the pit of karma. Because all karma, be it good or bad, is just more. And we have to remain in the material world to live it out. Sometimes people think, well, if I have good karma, then it's okay. But good karma or bad karma, it's all karma. And one has to get entangled in the material nature because of that. Let's say I have 10 tons of good reactions, but still I have to stay in the material world, receiving all those good reactions. And when I finish with the good reactions, then come the bad. And then I have to stay suffering the bad reactions as well. So good reactions, bad reactions, that all means we're stuck in the material world. And so long as one is entangled in the material nature, one will be continuously captured in this way. Therefore, in our Krishna consciousness movement, the idea is that one should learn the arts of action so that one knows how to act. Because one has to learn how to act. So we learn it, as Krishna is saying here in the previous verse, by following the footsteps of devotees who also know how to act. You can't learn this by accident, experiment, or even by trying to find it out by inquiry and investigation. This is something which doesn't come like that. This kind of learning of how to act, how not to act. What is action, what is inaction? What brings karma, and what doesn't bring karma cannot be learned by investigative techniques. After all, a great part of the suffering or enjoying of one's karma is the next body he's going to get. So if I start an investigative process, which includes an understanding, or tries to include an understanding of how my actions now are going to affect me later, the whole thing falls apart at the time of death. Because although it is so that I will find out the conclusions of my investigation, and I will take another body, and at that time all the evidence required will be there, but I won't even remember that I'm doing an investigation. Because at the moment of death, all that is wiped out. So I can't remember that I'm making an investigation. And again, I'm just suffering the results of my karma. Therefore, these investigative techniques at realizing karma and its effects are worthless. Because you can't ever complete your investigation to such a point where it will be valuable and one will be able to change the ways of action in a practical way. Therefore, we reject this ascending process of knowledge. There's two kinds of knowledge. That which ascends and that which descends. The ascending knowledge means I don't have knowledge. So I try to find it out. I try to investigate and experiment. I'm searching. What is this knowledge? I may not even know where I'm going. And that's very dangerous in the ascending path. It's like if somebody doesn't know where the goal is and he just starts walking. Let's say I just start walking here in Vienna. I don't know hardly anything here in this city. So if I just start walking, and I don't even have any place to go, I just start walking through the streets. I make a left turn, a right turn, and a right turn, and a left turn. And I end up somewhere, no doubt. And when I'm there, I can kind of figure out what it is. But what has that gotten me? When I don't know where I'm going, and I don't have anywhere I've got to go, and I just start going there, what's the use of that? I may be completely ending up in a totally wrong direction. If I don't know the general direction to move, I can't be sure I'm going in the right direction at any point in time. Even I know I want to get to the point of freedom from karma. But because I have no idea of the path, I may go off completely into something even worse. I may be completely covered. Therefore, you require a guidance that comes from the liberated platform down and brings one up. That's called descending knowledge. When you're ascending, you're not sure where you're going or how to get there. But when the knowledge is descending, it comes down very directly and picks us up. It's knowledge which picks us up. It's a different kind of knowledge. It's something which is coming from a liberated platform into this platform of ignorance. That's why Krishna, he gives knowledge directly and says, now try and understand what is action that should be not done, and what is freedom from reaction. I'm going to tell you. And when you learn this, you'll be liberated from all misfortune. Moksha Shubat. All things which are bad, which you don't like. You get freed from them. Because one will have the right direction. Even though we may be far away, even though we may not even be very capable, still we know where to go. We also know different activities. This one brings karma, this one brings freedom from karma. And we make our choice. Because if we have as our goal freedom from karma, then we'll choose that form of action. If we have as our goal to be entangled in karma, we'll choose that action. Entangled in karma means that I like the idea of staying in the material world. I want to take birth again. I want to enjoy that which the material nature has to offer me. So I choose the goal of action, which brings reaction. I work hard to make some money, to get some money, to spend the money, to enjoy the money. That is a definite plan and goal. And the whole material society is out there to help you attain that. So many books, so many universities, so many libraries, so many magazines, so many newspapers, so many radio shows. All of it just meant to help us stay in the material existence. But when one approaches this other path, which is a very concrete and definite path, which has a specific goal, which you can attain, and which has been given to us from the liberated platform, and which has entered into this platform of material conditioning, and is gradually elevating us. If we take the process, then we will attain that platform of Krishna consciousness. But it must come from a previous authority. That's why this disciplic succession is so important. Once some people in Sweden, they were questioning all the time some authorities, because we always quote the disciplic succession, parampara, sampradaya, school, that it comes from this master to this disciple, to this master to this disciple, down, 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 through the ages. We always quote this as our authorities. We don't say, I think, maybe, perhaps, it might be, well, who knows, but we say, Krishna says, here in Bhagavad Gita, it's like this. So this is our authority. And this authority has been handed down generation to generation since time immemorial. So therefore we quote that authority. Some people were saying, why all the time you're quoting this authority? Can't you think for yourself? Yeah, sure, we can speculate as good as anybody else. A lot of our devotees are pretty good at speculating. So, any idiot can speculate. Any fool, even a person in a mental hospital who's completely defective, can speculate all kinds of things. And they may sound very nice too. But that doesn't mean that is the absolute truth. An absolute truth has to come from an absolute platform. I can't speculate in absolute truth, neither can you. And absolute truth is something you can learn from a higher platform. It's not something that you can speculate and just pull out of your hat like a rabbit. It doesn't work like that. You have to know what is the truth from one who knows what is the truth. Otherwise you cannot. When we are blind like this, we're right now in a blind condition in this material world. Although we think we see very well, factually, compared to the higher levels of realization, we don't see it all very well. We can't even understand we're not this body. We don't even know what happens at the moment of death. And some people don't even care. They don't even think about dying. They figure anyway it'll happen, so don't worry about it. But then 2 seconds before it's about to happen, they're terrified. Oh no, what has happened? Everything ruined, everything gone, everything finished. So, one should understand, have knowledge which descends. That's real knowledge. Real knowledge means you get it from a real authority. Otherwise, even the most intelligent of men will be totally bewildered when it comes to understanding what is action and what is inaction. Even, for instance, great philosophers and scholars of the modern philosophical schools are bewildered and do not really know what is action and what is reaction. Some of them might talk about it because they read Bhagavad Gita or heard something about Vedic philosophy. Other than that, it's very hard for them to understand. Of course, there are some persons who were well aware of the concept of life after death, even before in history. But still they had no exact conception, due to the fact that it was basically something that one realized through many lifetimes of understanding. But still, there was no absolute to measure it against. Just like you may even know something very nicely, but unless you've got something which is determined and totally right, you know it for sure, you cannot really measure what you know. Just like, for instance, I may speculate, what is 1 kilo? And I may be pretty close, and I may be pretty sure, and others may be also sure. But unless we have a scale which is perfectly calibrated, according to the real standard of what is a kilo, we can never be absolutely sure this is right. Now, of course, it's also very, very hard to speculate. Even this, which is just a material thing, just some weight, that's also very, very hard. I'm going to get some hairs. But unless we ascertain this from some actual standard, we can't ever be 100% sure that this is a kilogram. Similarly, one cannot know anything for sure about spiritual life unless he's got some standard to show it against. Otherwise, there are so many persons who wake up in the middle of the night and poof, they say, that's it! Now I've understood. This is the truth. Then they go out and they start telling others, and somebody else says, yeah, that sounds good, I'll vote for that. And in this way a whole school starts, because somebody woke up in the middle of the night. We have seen this in India. There are a lot of so-called sampradayas or schools like that. We've challenged many persons. They say, yes, we have rule, we have authority, but we say it's correct. They're a school, they're a sampradaya. So we say, how far back does the sampradaya go? Who was the originator of the sampradaya? And generally it's 4 or 5 or 6 back. And that's all. And then we say, how did this person originate the knowledge? He was just meditating, and he became enlightened, and the light came from the sky, and struck him in the head, and the Shakti entered, and he became enlightened. And then he spoke the truth, and this disciple learned it, and he passed it perfectly down in his mind. But the originator of all of this was somebody who just got some Shakti in the brain, some light beam came, and he got all inspired, and there it was. That's not the truth. Anybody can get inspired. You don't have to be meditating in the Himalaya to be inspired. There are plenty of persons here in the West who are also equally inspired. And they went out and they just said, this is the truth. And other persons said, sure, great, we love it. But that's not the point which Krishna is making here. You can't find truth like that by vote. Because a lot of people follow this way, this is the best way. Plurality. Whoever votes most for one certain form of truth, that's truth. We have to go according to actual standards, which are established there in all religious scripture factually throughout the whole world in history. There are general basic standards which everybody accepts. There is the Supreme Lord. We are His parts and parcels. We are meant to love the Supreme. Our original nature is spiritual, and we are not meant to live here in the material world. That point is accepted by everybody. Now, who's that the Supreme, and how He looks, and what He does, and who are we, and how we look, and what we do, and how we'll attain the Supreme, and what we should do, and how we should live, these are details which are dealt with differently. Mostly, you don't find so much information. You can ask in other specific traditions, what does God look like? And some may come up with, he's an old man with a long gray beard and a lot of muscles idea. Because that's the way Michelangelo painted him on the roof of the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. Muscles because he's the strongest,
beard because he's the oldest, and it's all gray. And he looks wise and compassionate. He doesn't look very beautiful otherwise. This conception of God may be very good in somebody's mind, but it does not really coincide with the fact that he's the most beautiful. He's ever-fresh youth. Why God should look old? Since he's anyway eternal, how old does an eternal person look? And if you're eternal, do you have to look old in order to get across the point that you're eternal? If there's eternality, but there's no eternal youth, what's the use of this eternality? Yes. There was once in this Greek mythology, I don't remember who it was, this old lady. She got the benediction to never die. Was it Cassandra? I don't remember. She got the benediction to never die, but she forgot to get the benediction that she would never grow old. Therefore, she was just a pile of dust in a pot. She was so old she couldn't die, and she was just asking everybody for the benediction to die. Anyway, it's a good story, and it tells the point that if you're dealing with eternality, then why not eternal youth? What's the use of eternality if you got to grow old? It doesn't make any sense. But because the conception of God was tinged with the conception of man, it's called anthropomorphism. You take the qualities of man, you project them on God. God needs to have muscles because he's strong. But come on, get serious. Even you have this many muscles. You're Mr. Universe. You got muscles coming out of your ears, muscles coming out. But you just get put in a ring with some big ape. And he's going to pick you up and break you in half. Because he's got so many more muscles than you got muscles. So then, if God is the strongest, how many muscles does he have to have? Biceps like this? What does he have to look like to be strong? And Krishna doesn't even have muscles like that. You don't see Krishna with muscles. He's a very beautiful form, flowing form. Because his strength is not a process of some muscular action. His strength is a process of his potency. And it's a direct manifestation of his potency. He doesn't have to use muscles to do anything. And neither does he have to have gray hair because he's old. He never grows old. He's eternally youthful. And he doesn't look like some college professor or some movie star or whatever. He's the most beautiful personality. More beautiful than we can even imagine. Nobody can imagine the beauty of Krishna. Although many artists have tried very faithfully to paint paintings of Krishna in a very nice way, but still, you cannot reproduce Krishna on paint. Because he's so much more beautiful than anybody's conception. You just can't conceive of God. Not by the material mind. You can't, by our present consciousness and understanding of material existence, project things in such a way that you can understand God. By all the logic and reason and good wishes, you cannot understand the Supreme. He's not to be known that way. You can't reach up through mental speculation to know Krishna. Therefore, in all of these literatures which have been written, excepting, of course, those which deal directly with Krishna, like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or else parts of the Vedic literatures, none of them have a clear conception of what is the Supreme, what he looks like, what are his qualities, what are his characteristics, where he lives, what he does, who are his associates, what is his paraphernalia. None of these questions are answered. You don't get that knowledge. And in fact, some people, they don't even accept that he has a form. Or that he has any qualities. They say he's just everything, everywhere, and that's all. So this is the problem. But only you'll find in these Vedic literatures, when you have a proper authority, you'll find the proper conception clear of the Supreme. And nobody can argue against that conception. Yeah. In my almost 18 years of Krishna consciousness, we have not heard anyone argue against, in any way, near successfully, or I haven't even heard arguments, against how God looks, where He lives, what He does, etc. There's simply no argument. They will only say, I don't believe it. That's the only argument that is given. Oh, I don't believe it. Or, it's not possible. Why is God blue? Ask Him. He is. I can't say why not, or why not something else. When He comes like Lord Chaitanya, He comes in golden color. He appears in all different kinds of colors and forms and personalities, characteristics, with different functions and different features, according to time, place, and circumstances. But He's always in ever-fresh youth in His original eternal abode, Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. Nobody can say it's not so. They can only say, He wouldn't do that. Why would He? Or, I can't believe it. There's no way you can argue this point. Yet, when they try to say, He has no form, it's easy to argue that point. If God has no form, and we have form, that means we have more than He has. But He has more than we have. He has not only form, but the most beautiful form. And our form is very small, and His form is very great. That's the difference between us and the Supreme. The Supreme is the greatest, we are the smallest, that's the difference. And we can only know that great personality by His mercy when He lets us know how He is. When He says, I am like this. In that way you can realize the Supreme. And that's the only way. Otherwise you can't do it. You can't see God. Sometimes they say, can you show me God? Just like, in the restaurant. Here, boy, garçon. I don't even think you can get away with that in the modern age. You try that in a restaurant nowadays. The waiter will come up to you and say, hey fella, you're living in the past. You can get your own food. Doesn't work like that. And they really think this is a good argument. It's just amazing. But to speak of the next door neighbor, try and take the president of Austria and get him to come here by snapping the fingers. He's not going to come. You may not even see him personally in your whole lifetime. And what to speak of God? This is the most incredible thing. Therefore we say, you will only understand the Supreme when He wants you to, and not 1 second before. When He wants you to, then you can understand, and not 1 second before. Therefore, one has to act under His direction so that we can go back to the Supreme, following His program to come back to Him. And even you follow His program perfectly, even you follow the whole thing exactly, it still doesn't mean you're going to realize the Supreme. It just doesn't mean like that. Because only when He says, all right, I am like this, then you may know Him. But of course you can qualify yourself to come into a very good position to be like that. And then you've got the best opportunity to realize the Supreme. But you can never demand, even by good action, to realize the Supreme. Actually, there's verses like this in the Upanishads, in the Vedic literature. Nalabja pravachanena labto nahedeya bahuna shutena starts one. Which says that it's not by good brain. Even you may have big IQ. And you may be a big intelligent person. You won't be able to realize the Supreme. Even Lord Brahma is the most intelligent in the whole universe. Still, he cannot just realize Krishna when he wants to. It's a very difficult process, and the Supreme Lord must agree. And not by even just giving a good lecture. Even you can speak real good. And you may be able to get the audience listening to your every single word. Still, you may not be able to realize the Supreme that way. Not by good works, not by a lot of charity, not by yoga practice. By none of these things alone, or even all of them put together, is God obliged to appear before you. He will only appear before his bhakta, his devotee. Those who are friends to him, who are engaged in loving service to him. Then Krishna will reveal himself to them as he desires. So, we've got to learn the art of inducing Krishna to want to see us. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, he said, you should not act to see Krishna. It's not that you should go out and try to see Krishna, but you should act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. Just like if you want to try and see the president. Very hard, practically impossible. Not that he's going to waste his time just seeing us. We're all a bunch of nobodies here. So why is he going to go see us, right? But if we do something very good for the country, if we do something wonderful for the country, then he'll want to see us. Maybe give some medal, service. This one has done good service for the country. This one has done the right thing for the country. And then he'll see us. But until that point, we won't be able to see the Supreme of this country. Similarly, you can't see God unless he wants to see you. And why will he want to see you? Because one is engaged in very, very, very nice service for his satisfaction. Then he will say, yes, bring that devotee to me. I want to see this devotee. He is so nicely engaged in my service. Please, just bring him here before me. And in this way, there will be a very nice relationship. So, in any case, this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to bring us to the point by which we may realize the Supreme by satisfying him so that he will be desirous of actually relating with us in love. So this is not an easy state. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur once said, to get the trust of Krishna is not easy. That Krishna shall trust us, this is not easy. You can trust Krishna, that's easy, because he's God. You know he's not going to cheat you, because he's got nothing to gain. But we'll probably cheat Krishna. And we've been doing it for years, and we'll probably go on doing it, because we're a bunch of nonsenses. Therefore, that Krishna shall trust us, this is a very, very, very rare state. And that's only attained after a lot of struggle and after many, many births and deaths. And when one has finally come into knowledge, real knowledge, he realizes Vasudeva or Krishna is everything, and he surrenders fully to him. And in this way, he makes a lot of advancement. And Krishna one day will see, this devotee is serious, this devotee is real, this devotee I can trust. He's not going to go away from me again. That is a very nice state. If we can come to that state, that would be perfection. So, are there any questions? Yes?
Yeah, a very small one. And please don't believe that I want to argue with you.
You can argue all you want.
No, I want to try. You said that God can't grow old. But if there is no such thing as age, how can you say he is always young? It's not very important, I know, I just...
No, it's young doesn't mean like the opposite of old. It means...
Age,
ageless. It means eternal youth. In other words, youth in the sense that, there's a stage in our lives which we call the prime of life, when the most beauty is there, the most energy is there, etc. So, the spiritual world doesn't have that kind of an age. But the most beautiful form is that form which is called eternal youth. But because there is no old age or whatever, there's age, it's all ageless, therefore really there's no question of being young. He's not young, he's not old, because there's no time like that. He's eternal, and this is his transcendental form. We have to talk like this because we're bound by birth and death, by youth and old age. We're bound by these things. Therefore, we have to use words like this, otherwise nobody's going to know what we're talking about. But the fact is, it's ageless, and that's the real point. Yes?
Would you say there's a possibility to get void of all identifications?
To get what of all?
Void of all identifications. Is it...
What do you mean by void?
No, you can get rid of all...
Oh, get rid of.
Yes. And...
yes, there is a statement which says, Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatpartvena nirmalam. Rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhaktir uchate. You make all bodily designations. Sarva upadi. Upadi means designation. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm young, I'm old, I'm Austrian, American, I'm Chinese, or whatever. Bodily designation. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam. You get free from all of these things. Get rid of them. There is a stage. And it's called Tatpartvena Nirmalam. When you come to the pure platform, and you realize your real designation, that I am Krishna's part and parcel. But you must have some designation, because you do exist after all. And as an existing living being, you are an individual soul. Therefore, that individual has some qualities, characteristics, and ultimately, you are a spiritual identity. But that designation is not something which is, in fact, a designation. It's not that somebody has taken some name from somewhere and plastered it on you. You are now John, you are now Joe, you are now... But rather, this is your eternal, spiritual characteristic, and quality, and form. So it's not a designation as such, but it's your actual identity. And there's a big difference.
So this you can't get rid of?
No, it's you. You can't get rid of you. You're always there. Anyway, how can you get rid of you?
Well, I just asked you. You say no.
No, I'm asking you. How can you get rid of you? After all, it's you. If you yourself try to get rid of you yourself, how will you do it? It's tough stuff.
Well, I just asked you,
Okay, you don't have to answer if you don't want. But this is actually that last part. That's why I made a challenge like this. How can you get rid of you? But there's some class of philosophers who actually think they can do that.
Yes,
They think they can wrap themselves up in some bag and all of a sudden they'll just suck themselves in some black hole and disappear.
Yes.
But there's an impossibility. Therefore I ask, how can you get rid of you? It's like picking yourself up by your feet. You're standing on the ground, so you pick yourself up. That's another one of those impossibilities. You take yourself, you wrap yourself in a bag, go through a black hole. It sounds good in the mind. That's what I mean, mental speculation. You can do anything up there. You can also lift yourself up by the feet, but it philosophically is an impossibility. If I exist, How do I get to the point of not existing? Now, if I'm just this body, I'm just chemicals, and this life is simply chemicals, then at death, I stop existing. But if I'm not just a pile of chemicals, then if I exist beyond this body, then what will cause my stopping to exist? You know, nobody's ever been able to answer that question. And actually, this is Buddhistic philosophy. And Buddha himself didn't try to answer that question, because he can't. Therefore, the answer was something mystical. Like, you know, it's like the sound of one hand clapping. So then you're supposed to think about that, and then, boom, it's supposed to hit you, and zoop, then you disappear. Now, Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. Krishna appeared just to trick people like this. And Lord Buddha, he would do like that. He would hold a flower, and then they would ask him some tricky question. And then he would just look at the flower and smile. And all of his students would go, aha, aha, this is the answer. It's terrible of me. Sometimes people ask questions and I put them on the spot and just get ready and start counting. So they say, oh boy, what did I get myself into? Don't mind, it's just a way of speaking. I realize that every now and then. Therefore, nobody wants to ask questions. They know if I ask that guy a question, he's going to get on my case. Yes.
Krishna is in our heart as a four-handed Vishnu form, and I would like to know how the Jiva looks like. Is it four-handed or two-handed?
It depends. The Jiva soul, it depends on what his relationship is with Krishna. If he is actually, his eternal form is of the Vaikuntha Loka, in the Vaikunthas with Vishnu, it's four-armed form. But if his eternal form is in Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna, then it's two-armed form. So it depends on where he belongs. And according to that, he has his form. Yes?
You just explained to that lady that use actually is just a matter of speaking, since we can only think in material words, material ways. But why are you then so bent on explaining in material ways that he's blue, that he's four-armed and two-armed? I mean, these are all material forms. That these, as far as I understand, are forms we're supposed to get rid of. Retain our spiritual side.
No. This is just what we were talking about over there. There is material form and there is spiritual form. Material form is like this stuff. Spiritual form is also form, but it's not of this substance. It's of another substance, which is of a higher nature. It's called Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Eternality, knowledge, and bliss. It's a form which is freed from that stuff. But it's still a form. It looks like something. And that form may have different appearance.
One always sees pictures like that, which are definitely very material. Since you can't depict.
Yes, that picture specifically is about the universal form of Krishna, which is material. That picture specifically is about Krishna's universal form. That means Krishna assembles this form just to show Arjuna. But it's the manifestation of all his material energies. This is not spiritual form.
I see. But all the other, I mean, all the pictures.
Here, you take another picture. Oh, turn around.
This one.
Okay, there's Krishna. Now, that Krishna's form is spiritual form. He has spiritual form.
Yes, but you can't depict spiritual form in a material way, okay? And
You can
when
try.
I put a picture,
You can try.
the 4 colors and the cover of a book, it's material. It's bound to be because you, as you just explained, you can't depict it with material means and
But you can try.
spiritual form.
You can try. It's better than making a book with nothing on it, just the white. We're trying to show. It might not bother you, but other persons might wonder why they should buy this book.
Well, but the case is the Islam, it completely forbids all pictures of God because they say you can't depict him in a correct way anyway, so why try?
Yes, but they also say that God has no form.
So that's their attitude.
That's their attitude in their philosophy. But they say God has no form. But therefore, if God has no form, how can you depict a form? So therefore, no form. We say God has a form. There's no doubt about it. Therefore, we may try and paint the image of Krishna. We know it's not Krishna. But because it is according to the scripture, according to the descriptions, it's pretty close. It's not Krishna, we know that. But it's pretty close. For the sake of helping someone understand the spiritual form. Yes?
I'm audacious enough to ask you another question.
You can ask 10 more questions.
You said that we keep our spiritual identity. I've come across the idea of at the end of our path, melting back into God or Krishna. What do you say to that?
Merging.
Yeah, that would mean the end of our individuals. No, wouldn't it?
No, I'm just waiting to. Yes, merging is another popular idea. So far we've had Buddhism and oneness, and now merging has come. So these are popular ideas. These are ideas which are generally understood by persons because these are ideas which you can attain through mental speculation. I mean, just as a philosophical process. By sitting together or sitting alone and just thinking about it, one can get to this point of thinking that ultimately I merge into the Supreme. And it's all one and we all just disappear into oneness. This is a popular idea. This is called impersonalism. The other idea was called voidism. These are the two basic philosophies outside of Krishna consciousness. Either voidism or impersonalism. All philosophies boil down into one of these two things, if they're not Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. That also may include other religions. So this idea of impersonalism is another idea, like voidism. They're almost the same. Voidism says, ultimately it's all nothing. Impersonalism says, ultimately it's all one. Now basically they're both saying the same thing, because they say ultimately it's all the same. Either it's all nothing or it's all one, but it's all the same. Actually, this impersonalism idea is covered Buddhism, covered voidism. It just takes it's the all nothing and says, well, it's not all nothing, but it's all one, without any characteristic, without any form, without any personality. So this situation is not the ultimate situation. For if everything was all one in its ultimate issue, then why is it not one now? We are different now than each other, than the Supreme. If I am not one with God, how do I become just one with the Supreme? And that's all there is at the end. It's just this oneness. Now someone may rightly say, okay, it's not all one now, but I can merge into that Supreme, and for me it will become all one. But then that means what you're saying is that there's this material world, and then there's a spiritual world. Here's all the matter, and there's all the spirit, right? And in the spirit, it's all one. But then I ask, if it's all one out there in the spirit, then where did the material world come from? Why, if it's all one out there, does that oneness create this material world? It has no desire, it has no resources or materials to give to the material world. How did this whole material world get here if out there it's just one and nothing else?
How did it get here even if we consider that our spiritual identity is always us?
But that's easy, because then there's God, there's the Supreme. He has desire. We have desire. It's our desire to be here, so Krishna supplies this place. That makes sense. There's desire. But if there's only oneness out there, it doesn't in any way explain the existence of this material world right now.
So that means that we are responsible in all eternity for our spiritual
Yes.
identity.
Yes. And we're responsible for what we desire too. And therefore we're responsible for being here.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
So it's our fault.
Consider, because you can't allow yourself to think that one day everything will be taken from you. You are always at every instant responsible
That's right.
for what you are.
That's right. That's right. That's karma. That's what karma is all about. You act, you create results. Your desire creates action, creates results. You get good or bad accordingly. Now, let's go back and help you with this impersonal philosophy. When I gave that argument that how and why does this material world get created if the Supreme up there is just all one, because he doesn't have any desire. So then, those who are expert word jugglers, they take words and just keep them flying around in the air. They say that, well, factually, this here is illusion. It's not real, you see. It doesn't exist. Therefore, it's actually all one. And this is just part of illusion, and we just don't know it yet. When we realize it, then we'll be in the one. This is called word juggling. You just take some words and you keep them all flying in the air without dropping them. So, the answer is very simple. That if this is illusion, and we are in an illusion, and there's this all oneness, which actually is, then we have another problem. It's not all one, it's two. There's reality, the oneness, and there's illusion, which makes us think we're not in the oneness. So there's two. There's not one. There's reality and illusion. I'm in illusion. And if I'm the one, and I'm actually God, I just don't know it yet, then that means that illusion is greater than me. Because I'm in it, and I can't get out. Even if I just want to. It won't work. If today I wake up and I say, now I'm going to be out of illusion, poof! It just doesn't work. I can poof all I like, and just my friends are going to think I'm crazy. What's he doing all day? Poofs. So, factually speaking, to say it's just illusion and you're in it means you're talking about two. You're not talking about one. You're talking about material existence and spiritual existence. Now, another thing they say when we give them this answer, then they're backed into the corner. Philosophically, we've been through this 1,000 times with Mayavadis, impersonalists. We always back them into the corner. Then they come out with their final bomb. It's all illusion. It doesn't exist. None of it exists. It's all illusion. It's completely all just non-existent. And at that point, we take off our shoes, we hold them firmly in our hand, and we beat them in the face. And then we ask them, Was that illusion? And if they say yes, then you beat them again. Was that illusion? What is your argument?
Not just a question. Did you get across anybody who done this 40-day desert scene? You know this 40-day the desert? No? This scene, you know? Somebody gets into the desert and like Jesus Christ or somebody else, you know? You didn't get across anybody who done this.
But why?
No, well, to get rid of all the identifications, I mean, if you have no whatsoever, you know, around any other scenes.
Oh, but that's sensory deprivation. You
Yes.
can also do that in a water tank, you know?
But 40 days,
No, but they do that in water tanks too.
40 days in a row.
I don't know how long they do it, but they also go in these tanks, deprivation tanks, sensory deprivation tanks. And they speculate their brains out. I'm sorry to put it in such a colloquial way all the time, but factually speaking, you don't get the absolute truth by just depriving your senses. You basically get your mind. You find out the depths of your mind, and boy, does the mind go deep.
No, doesn't it stop?
Mind can just expand, speculate. I read some things about persons who were in sensory deprivation situations for extended periods of time, and it was really pure mental speculation. Didn't come to any conclusion, it just... One man said he started flying around the universe and started meeting all kinds of people out there. But sure, we already can tell you there's plenty of persons in the universe, and you can meet them also. But this is also not the supreme, this is just material. You can't get rid of designation because you got your mind. Even you can somewhat get rid of designation because there's nobody else to say, hey, you're a this or you're a that. But still your mind is there. And your mind definitely has an identity. Your mind thinks it is. See, most of these things, they're on the platform of the mind. That's why by the mind you can reach up to a certain amount of knowledge, but it all stops at one point. It can't get one out of the material world. Therefore, I was speaking against this mental speculation and accepting that which comes from down, comes from up, down to us. Then we can get lifted up.
So there's nobody going to talk to you when you lose all this identification. You don't. It doesn't come down to you.
That's an interesting thing. You might get somebody helping you and saying, all right, now you've managed to get free to a certain extent, but you should now try to understand the real identification of the self.
Yeah, something like in this line. Eh?
Maybe, I don't know. But there are definitely persons to help other persons. Not necessarily physical persons. But I cannot say. But here we have Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna gives spiritual masters also to tell you directly with words. You don't have to go in the desert. It's not very pleasant out there. You can come to Krishna's temple and get the same thing. I mean, better. Yes?
I got stuck with the illusion thing. If I've got you right, we are living in a real world of matter. And where we want to go is a real world of spirit.
However, the illusion is that not that this world doesn't exist, but it's not what we think it is.
Then for once we mean the same thing, because I couldn't understand that, because the moment you just get out high like that, you know, out of all the meta questions, then you can see that you were into illusion up to your ears.
Yes.
Yeah, okay then. That's
Question is, I think in Krishna consciousness, are some borders you can't come across? You cannot come across. I mean, borders we are given by God. I mean, borders like you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not lie, and so on. The main borders we are given by God.
That's what Bhagavad Gita is all about. What you should do. But thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. These are actually sub-religious principles. They're not actually the real spirituality. It's just to keep you from getting bad karma. Real spirituality begins at the point where you understand what is right action. You start acting transcendentally. In a transcendental position, there's no question of killing others. Unless you're asked by Krishna, please kill. Like Arjuna, got it. So Krishna does not say, thou shalt not kill in Bhagavad Gita. He tells Arjuna, thou shalt kill, and kill good too. This is war.
Can you kill in self-defense?
Now, for you and me, we don't go around killing anybody. We don't even want to kill mosquitoes or flies. Therefore, we catch them and throw them out the door.
If you need your life to...
You do need your life. You need it in order to get self-realized. So if somebody's trying to kill you, then you get out of it. And if ultimately it's either you or him, then it should be him. Veda says, save yourself first.
So I can kill.
No. That's not the conclusion. The conclusion is you have no right to kill. But in certain very bottom line, certain circumstances, you might have to. But it still doesn't say that you don't get karma. You may also get karma for that.
Even acting in Krishna consciousness?
Maybe. Not acting in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna got no karma. But let's say you're chanting Hare Krishna or something, you're driving your car and you're spaced out and you run somebody over. It's not that just because you were chanting Hare Krishna, there's no responsibility. I don't know, it's a very tricky question.
His question may be for self-defense.
Self-defense is something different. Then you're allowed to defend yourself. You must have the ability to go on.
Suppose some
Self-realization.
snake is attacking.
Snake is another thing.
Some snake is attacking.
Snake is you have no right to kill the snake, but you have a right to your life. So it's not that you have a right to kill anything. You have no right. But you may do under certain circumstances for protecting your own life, because you have right to your own life.
So to recognize when I'm allowed to kill.
Yeah, sure. When you
It's
see
a moment you can suffer from it after.
but what possible situation can you conceive of it?
Somebody's attacking you.
So then you can do something.
You must defend.
Then you can do
So, you can kill it. And
But if you can do it without doing that, it's a lot
after
easier.
some minutes you are dead. What about it?
Like I just said, you can do it to protect yourself. But it's not that you have to kill somebody to defend.
In self-defense you can lie, you can steal also.
Is it that you're making a plan? What is actually the point here? Don't stretch self-defense into becoming a rascal, you know? The mind.
some commandments
Huh?
given by God. Commandments. There are some commandments given by God. For instance, the color. This is an example of it. And there's in it. There's a sentence. There's sentence. You shall not kill. For instance.
And so therefore we don't eat meat.
Yeah. But however, there are situations you cannot kill.
Like,
You're defending yourself, or
but then
you
we
need
already
food.
talked about it.
You need food.
What food? You can take plants.
Yeah, there's no plants around you, and you are hungry.
If there's no plants around you, there's nothing else around you either.
Maybe some animals.
What are the animals going to eat? They also eat plants. I can answer the question. Maybe you're in the North Arctic Circle up there, and you're an Eskimo. You know, and you're going to saw the ice, get the fishes. Okay, so you can do that. Do you want to do that?
I don't know live there.
Yeah, but if you did, you would do that. Then.
If I had.
But you don't live there, so you don't have to. So what are you worrying about it for? Last question.
Doesn't the question of sacrifice come into this? Because it could just be the right thing to not defend yourself.
Yes, that's true. It could be your karma. Now you've got to die. And even if you try to defend yourself, it won't matter anyway. But you don't know that. Therefore, you always have to act.
No, I think that I don't want to be cleverer than you are. I beg your pardon, but I think that there really are these extreme moments when you know exactly what you have to do, even if it is absolutely contrary to what you would do usually.
Anyway, that's also karma. That's just the super soul telling you, now this is what's got to be. And you just have to do it, that's all. But that's what I was saying, that when it's your karma, even if you try to defend yourself, and if you've got to die, you'll die anyway. Because it's your karma, you can't do anything
Yeah,
about
but
it.
sometimes it
And sometimes you just say, why should I bother? Because the super soul is telling you, it's time to go, forget it. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
All right. Harikesa.